Welcome to Amanda Hall's workshop series here on Facebook Live on a Wednesday morning. It's 8:30 here on the Gold Coast Eastern Standard Time in Australia, and I'd like to welcome everybody, and I hope you're having an absolutely awesome day wherever you are in this planet of ours. We're up to workshop number 40, and this week we're going to be featuring the full moon in Gemini. So for those of you that don't know who I am, my name's Amanda Hall Psychic. I've been in the psychic industry here in Australia for well over 40 years now. I've won many industry awards, including Psychic Hall of Fame, and also been voted the Australian Psychic of the Year for the 4th year in a row by the public. So thank you very much to everyone that voted for me. So this week we're going to be talking about the full moon in Gemini. Now, I know for a lot of people that they sort of say to me, oh dear, not the full moon again, Amanda. I really get really titchy and my energy goes all over the place and I feel uncomfortable. I can't sleep. Why do I feel so erratic? Why do I feel as if I'm being pulled many different directions? And it's because the full moon energy works on the tides and the gravity pull of the, the water coming in and out, lapping the ocean, the sand on the beach and things like that. And it is sort of quite an emotional time, because anytime we start talking about a moon energy, we're talking about emotions. And because we're made up of a very high volume of water in our bodies, of course we feel the pull of that, and some people more so than others. I'm fortunate I'm not a person that really feels that intense moon energy and that sort of way. I get it in a, I suppose, a more logical, pragmatic sort of way than I do in an emotional sort of keeping me awake fashion. But for each and every one of us, it's a very individual and different way that we feel the full moon. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for joining us here this morning. And if you want to leave your name in the comments box and where you're from, I'll happily get back to you in the next 48 hours. I'm happy to answer questions that relate purely only to this workshop. I will not be giving free readings. This is not a free reading segment. This is an educational segment where we feature a different subject in the psychic areas each week. And it is an educational workshop only. If you want the opportunity to have a free reading, can I suggest that you join into my previous show out of the Washington District on A1R Psychic Radio here on Facebook, half an hour prior to this presentation, where we have a completely different format on that show. We have the Simply Tarot card of the week. We have a glimpse around the universe. We also feature somebody famous in astrology terms, and we do 2 free readings, and we discuss what's happening in the astrological realms as well. So it's a completely different format show, plus we feature our candle of the week. So welcome to everybody that's just joining us now. I know it's early in some parts of the world, and some parts of the world it's quite late, but we have an action-packed workshop for you today as we're talking about the full moon in Gemini. So we've briefly touched on the full moon energy, where the full moon energy can affect everybody in completely different ways. How I like to work with a full moon energy is that I like to work on a 7-day cycle. So I like to work on 2 days on the approach, 3 days of the moon, and then 2 days of the lowering or letting go of the cycle. Now, this full moon cycle, some people like to work with crystals and put them out under the full moon. I'm not really a crystal person, so I can't really comment on what cycle of the moon you should or shouldn't put your crystals out under the moon. I suppose I know there's lots of people out there that are experts in this field. I'm not. I'm one of these people that I tend to do things when it feels right to me. It may not be necessarily following the rules. And I think sometimes that's the best way to work, is to work with what suits you. That if you feel drawn to put your crystals out under the moon, it's not a full moon or a new moon or a sideways moon, then do so. It's entirely up to you, because you'll know when things need to be sort of looked at for yourself. Okay, so with the full moon energy, it can sometimes affect your sleeping habits, because everything's rolling around in your mind, a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts, a lot of things. It's time when you can't necessarily still yourself. Some people find that they're heading to the fridge or the cupboard a lot more. They find that their eating goes out of control under the moon cycle, particularly the full moon. It's as if they're sort of trying to fill something up. It's not necessarily, is it a cycle that necessarily triggers bad eating habits or drinking habits or whatever the case may be, but for some people it is very real in this way. Now, with the full moon this month in Gemini, it's asking us to be a lot more flexible, a lot more versatile, to have the ability to sort of really listen to what's being said in our mind. Things will flick in and flick out. It's almost like a slideshow, flick, 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 and you think, I can't keep up. It's a time when lots of new ideas will come into our minds. So can I suggest have a pad and pen, or your voice recording on your phone ready to go, so that you can jot these ideas down as they come to you. Some things will be very trivial, and some things will be quite serious, and some things will only be a headline with no great detail, and you'll sort of think, well, what does that mean? Sometimes we're not meant to know all the answers at this time. It's just sort of like the headlines to a situation, and we'll fill in the details later. But it's also a time when we need to be spending more time in our local environment. And this is the time when I think we should be sort of introducing ourselves to the neighbours if we've got new neighbours, making our presence known in our local environment. If you've been thinking for a long time going and joining something in the neighbourhood, now's the perfect time to do so, because you should be welcomed with open arms. It's a time when people are sort of really putting their attention and focusing on things that need to be done in their local communities. And you'll find at this time of the year, there's usually a lot of fundraising or a lot of activities going on as we head towards a very festive time of the year, where people are starting to look at more at things that are going on in their local environment. And I know November quite often can be a stressful month for a lot of people, because a lot of people sort of feel the pressures of November being leading up to the festive holiday season as sort of, it's such a busy time and there's so many things to do, and it's sort of like the silly season and I don't know how I'm going to cope. And other people find it a time where they feel that a lot of their things that they've hidden from themselves and things that they were dealing with have been, safely tucked away underneath, a rock crevice for a while, all of a sudden find their way to the surface. And now all of a sudden it's like this barrage of all these thoughts and things and pictures and ideas and stuff that I thought I'd dealt with or let go of, or were no longer useful to me, and I thought that they were gone a long time ago, all start to come to the surface. With the full moon in Gemini too, you can quite often find people can get a little bit snappy, snarly, because they're not thinking first before they're voicing what it is that's coming into their mind. And sometimes it can come across as being a little bit harsh, or a little bit with little or no feeling, a sort of a very matter-of-fact type of statement. And you sort of think, well, that was a bit harsh, or that was a bit cruel. They're not meaning it to be that way. It's just the way it is, because their mind and their mouth are running at two different speeds. They're both running out of control. They're not having time to stop, think, articulate, present it in a way that's palatable to everybody. It's just, it's in the mind, out, gone. And it's like, you've got to make allowances for these sort of things. But if I can also bring in something else around this full moon, which I think is also a very important layer that adds to this, we have Mercury, the planet of communication, is going retrograde or backwards at the moment in everybody's life, and it will be there till about the middle of December. Now, Mercury goes retrograde about 3 times a year for approximately 3 to 3.5 weeks each time. Now, at the moment with Mercury retrograde, no different to any other time, it's a time when we really need to make sure we have our listening ears on. Most people aren't listening. It's a time when arguments can happen for no apparent reason, because people don't listen fully or carefully to what's being said, and they just overreact or react to the situation without even giving it any thought. Add that with the full moon in Gemini, so then we've got a really strong double whammy there of communication that could be really misunderstood. So we've got the agitation of the full moon energy of people not sleeping well, people not really sort of feeling, connected and focused to their life and their body, and not feeling grounded, and a lot of stuff in their head. Then we add Mercury to the equation going retrograde, and this can be a recipe for disaster. So for those of our friends that are around the world and heading towards Thanksgiving, you might be aware that it's going to be a very powerful Thanksgiving this year. It's not the time to bring up a family issue, something that's been troubling you for a long time. Let's leave that for another day. Let's just try and enjoy the time. Let's reconnect the family. Let's reunite the family if we can, and have a very pleasant Thanksgiving for a change. And a time where we can really sort of set some new traditions maybe on how we look at Thanksgiving, and have some new ways of, going around the dinner table and having everybody sort of mention something that they're very thankful for, or something that they're working on. So that, maybe it's a time to set new traditions. For those of us that don't celebrate Thanksgiving, I think we can all have our own individual type of Thanksgiving, and, have a special meal with family and loved ones. And we don't necessarily have to have turkey or anything elaborate, but just make it a special meal and sit there and reconnect with each other. And that's what I'd like to see everybody do around this full moon, is spend some time with people in your local environment, your family, your friends, people that really mean something to you, and try and reconnect with them in some way and really listen to the things that they might have to say, because there may be some issues that are really troubling them that they might need some guidance on, or just need somebody to listen to them. And, you know, sometimes when you've talked about a problem, it's a problem halved, isn't it? Because we've shared it with someone else and we've found some insight into that. So for those of you that want to work with the full moon energy and want to start to light a candle or work with candle energy, you don't necessarily have to have my candles to do so, but we'll talk about my candles first off. So this is the full moon candle. The full moon candle has been specifically designed to work with for the full moon. This is something that, you know, when you're working with a full moon energy, which happens approximately once a month, if we were to have 2 full moons in one calendar month, that would be known as a blue moon. If we would be to have 2 new moons in one calendar month, that would be known as the dark moon or the black moon. So we're working with the full moon. It's not a blue moon. It's just a normal everyday normal full moon. So what I'd like you to do is write 3 things on the piece of paper that you would like to release under a full moon, because that's what happens when the moon is full. It's about emptying. It's about releasing. So we're going to empty something. So you might have 3 things that you want to empty, and they don't always have to be major things or major releases. It can be a release of emotions. It can be release of energy that, you know, you've been walking around for the last 6 weeks not feeling exactly yourself and been a little bit cranky with people and snappy, snarly, and you think, okay, I want to release that uncomfortable energy that's taken over my body. That's the important thing that I want to release. You know, you might want to release negative energies from the past, you know, somebody that you hadn't forgiven about something that they'd done to you a long time ago. Now's the time to put that down on the piece of paper and say, I'm going to release, you know, all that Uncle Harry did towards me, and I forgive him now. I mightn't forget, but I'll forgive him and release that. You know, it may be wanting to release yourself from debt. And, you know, when you're releasing yourself from debt, it's not about saying I'm not going to pay my debts. It can be, I want to release the stranglehold that my debt has on me, that I find some creative ways to be able to reduce my debt and therefore release it and not allow myself to get into those situations. So when we release, say, 3 things on your list, I want you to replace those 3 things with 3 things you would like to attract towards you. And that could be that I want to attract more positive, loving people into my life. It might be I want to attract more money so I can reduce my debt, and I'm prepared to work harder if I'm given the opportunity to have a promotion to do so. You know, so I always like to balance it out. If we're releasing 3 things, let's attract 3 things. So lighting our candle, these extra large candles have 2 weeks, 1 week, 1 day, 1 week the next day, gives you a longer burn time. This will give you a burn time up to about, you know, it's about 50 hours normally, up to about 100 hours if you do it that way. So we're going to be popping, we're going to write 2 identical lists, and we're going to pop that underneath the candle, if I can get the lid off. Okay, so this is our air sign candle. This is our Gemini candle. Now this air sign candle works for all air signs, whether you're Libra, Gemini or Aquarius. So same thing, write an identical list again, burning the candle in the same process with the 2 weeks. But what I want you to do when you've written your list is read your list out aloud, pop it underneath the candle as you go to light it. So maybe you might want to write 3 lists, so you can leave this underneath the candle. Light it and burn your candle for approximately 15 minutes to 2 hours per day for the 7-day cycle. And each time you go to light your candle, I want you to read out aloud what's on your list. That way you're setting your intent, purpose and direction by lighting the candle and working with it. Please never leave a candle unattended. Fires can start ever so easily, particularly in the warmer weather where we've got fans and air conditioners and things like that going. Never leave a candle unattended, no matter how safe you think it is, and always keep it away from children and pets. So for those of you that don't want a big candle and you want to take something to work or take something when you're traveling or only have a small space, can I suggest our gift box set? These are smaller candles. These burn for about 15 hours. In this set this week, I've made up with 2 air sign candles and a full moon candle in the middle. You can choose any 3 candles that you wish from the 27 in our range. Again, the same principle, write your list, read it out aloud, light your candle from 15 minutes to 2 hours a day for the 7-day cycle. Now, for those of you that don't want to work with that, can I suggest a melt warmer? You can pick these up at your department store, supermarket. Here in Australia, around about $15. They're electric, little button on the side. Same principle applies. Write your list out, go to read it out aloud, pop it underneath your melt warmer put your melt warmer on a coaster. You'll find a little tray on the top of the melt warmer. You need about a teaspoon of each to begin with this, the full moon and the air sign, and then you add about a half a teaspoon a day. And that you can leave going safely all day and just turn it off at the end of the day. So why would we work with a full moon energy? I think it's really important that we get into the habits of working with the moon cycles, because that way that we're releasing and attracting on twice a month. So the main focus of the full moon energy is to release first and then to attract second. So it's releasing anything that we've gathered in the last month, the last 12 months, the last 10 years, putting it on our list and release. I suggest a minimum of 3. You can go up to 10 or 20 things if you want to. You know, you might have a very long list. But bearing in mind, whatever you're releasing, I want it replaced with something positive. It's really important to get into these cycles. I think it gets you into a good rhythm, a good routine of, you know, okay, now's the time I'm releasing things. We become more aware. We also become more compassionate and kinder to our fellow man, I think, because we understand the cycles that are coming up, and we prepare for those, and we make allowances and explain to people why they're feeling a bit titchy or uncomfortable or whatever. So as I said, now is the perfect time to get out, spend some time in your local environment, reconnect with the people that are important, that make up your community, because there's always a community project that needs somebody to give a helping hand to, and now's the perfect time, and it's the perfect time of the year for that. So for those of you that might want a personal reading with me, you can head to my website, www.amandahallpsychic.com.au. While you're there, you'll find a little pop-up thing will come up on the screen as you first head into the website. That's where you have the opportunity to join our weekly newsletter. In that, you'll join the Amanda Hall Psychic family. We have a weekly special just purely for people that receive the newsletter. It enables you to a free astrology chart to be emailed anywhere in the world. You're under no obligation to buy anything, and you can leave our newsletter at any time. For those of you that may want to purchase a reading or a product from me, if you head to the website, and when you get to the coupon box, if you type in the word Facebook in capital letters, you will receive a discount there on the website for that. Australian purchases, if you're purchasing product, whether it be candles or other products from our website, we offer free postage here in Australia. For our overseas family, I'm sorry, we can't offer you that, but what we do offer is a flat fee anywhere in the world for any amount of product that you buy. So whether you buy 1 thing or 10 things, the postage will remain the same. It will all be sent by air freight. It doesn't go by ship mail or, you know, take you 6 months to get it, but that's the best that we've been able to offer all of our overseas people. So on next week's workshop, I'm going to feature a workshop that we did earlier in the year, but I think it's very appropriate to revisit it at this time of the year, and it's called My Angel in the Sky. So it will be a workshop on how we deal with our grief at Christmas time and the holiday season. It's always the most difficult time of the year, and there's not too many people that haven't been touched when you get to a certain age by some form of loss, whether it's a loss of person or whether it's been a loss of our possessions, whether we've been through fires, floods, whatever, divorces, changes in residences, and, you know, different circumstances in our life. They're all a form of grief. So I thought next week on the workshop, I thought we'd have a look at how you can best approach the holiday season and deal with your grief. And can I say, grief doesn't necessarily get easier because the years go by. Sometimes grief can get harder as the years go by. So there's some of the subjects that we'll be talking about next week with My Angel in the Sky. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you again for watching every week. We're up to, you know, this week was workshop number 40. I still, you know, shake my head at how quickly the year's gone, and we've done 40 of these, and it's been an absolute joy and a pleasure to connect with all of you. And each week we're finding more and more people are joining us from around the world, and that's absolutely amazing. I love to connect with each and every one of you. And can I wish you all a very, very happy and safe week. And if you celebrate Thanksgiving, that's marvelous. Enjoy the time with your family and friends. And if you're in a part of the world, as I am, that we don't celebrate Thanksgiving, maybe, as I suggested, have a special meal with your family and friends. And it doesn't have to be elaborate, but just enjoy reconnecting and understanding the love and the reasons why you are all connected. I think it's a really important time, and particularly as the world's in such turmoil at the moment, maybe it's time to stop and take a little breath and be thankful for the things and the people that we have in our lives. And I'm not talking about material possessions. I'm talking about the loving energy and the amazing people that we have in our lives that bring us such joy. So I'd like to take the opportunity again to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the full moon in Gemini, which is Friday, wherever you are around this amazing globe of ours. And for those of you that watch the show regularly, you'll know that I'm a big fan of John Edward, and I had the good fortune of going and seeing one of his shows a couple of weeks ago. I think I'm still on a high from that. So hello to John and Katrina, wherever you are in this amazing country of ours in Australia, and I know you're enjoying your time here. And their time, you know, they'll be here for another couple of weeks. So if you have the pleasure of going to see them, can I suggest that John Edward is certainly well worth the money. I've been a couple of times now, and amazing man to watch with such humility. And he brings such closure and such joy to many people that were struggling with the word grief and struggling with lost loved ones, and not having felt that they had the opportunity to say goodbye. And he brings such closure and such peace. So I take my hat off and I salute John Edward, because I think he does an amazing job. And, you know, that leads us again into the workshop next week will be My Angel in the Sky and my take on grief. So I hope you can join us then. Bye for now.